I mean, you'd love to fix perception, because I would love to win one for what I know about football and stuff. And I know if I fix perception, that means I did everything I wanted to do, which isn't fix perception. It's win a damn Super Bowl. But I also know, like, when you say big games, like, we've got to win a bunch of big games to get to Super Bowls. We've won a lot of big games here. We've won a lot of big games to get into playoffs. The fact that we keep getting there shows you guys how much we've been win games or big games, and I think you guys are aware of that. But it's, these 2 Super Bowls have been tough, losing to Kansas City. But to think that if we win that means I can win a big game. No, that means our team won the Super Bowl. And that's what I understand. You guys can have any narrative you want, but like the success or the failure, it comes down to one game. And I hope that I can be a part of a team that wins a game at the end of the year. But to say that the Niners can't win a big game would be an extremely inaccurate statement.
Well, they can win a big game. They just can't win the big game. They won 5 Super Bowls and lost none in the first 29 editions of the Super Bowl. In the next 29, they've won 0 and lost 3. So, for 50% of the existence of the Super Bowl, they're 0-3. They haven't won that big game. And, look, it's a tough spot for Kyle. Of course there's a perception he can't win the big game because he's been to 3 of them, 2 with the Niners and 1 as the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, and he's lost. And in each of the 3, a double-digit lead was blown, or a double-digit lead was blown.
Yeah.
Got my words in the right order. And so I feel bad for him because you know what? It was Tom Brady once and it was Patrick Mahomes twice. It's the point Kevin Clark was talking about when he was with us last week. There's going to be a lot of Karl Malones and Charles Barkleys out there in the wake of Patrick Mahomes, just like there was with Michael Jordan. That's what's going to happen. That's just it. Kyle Shanahan, who could have had Mahomes with the 2nd overall pick in the 2017 draft, didn't take him, and now he's got to deal with it. That's why the perception is there that he can't win the big game. He came up against Tom Brady in Atlanta, and he's come up against Mahomes twice.
Yeah.
You give him any other team from the AFC, and maybe he's got 2 Super Bowl rings right now.
Right. It's greatness. It's great. This is ironic. It's ironic that he could have had this guy at pick number 3 when he came out, and now here he is, the kryptonite to your football team. I mean, it's crazy how the world works that way, right? Shanahan wants to find that guy that could just run his system, Kirk Cousins, whatever, not even looking for maybe the superstar that like his father had with John Elway, thinking he can do that way, and yet he's, facing our modern day John Elway, and he's like, well, you're not beating me today. Sorry, you're not going to do it. I'm one of the greatest of all time. I have a hard time not looking at this and looking at Shanahan. First off, winning the big game, yeah, surely. I get it. The big game. He's won a ton of big games, though. I mean, come on. That's where I don't love that, to that point. Right? It's you beating the number 1 seed Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers on the road in the divisional game on a cold, Saturday night to go to the NFC Championship and play the Rams when nobody thought they were going to go in there and win that football game. I mean, you said it, right? It's 4 out of 5 NFC championship games. So they've obviously won some big games. But yes, nobody's going to look at you as a winner until you win the big game, like you're saying. And I find the parallels to him and the guy that he can't beat right now in the Super Bowl with Andy Reid kind of fascinating. It feels the same way. It really does. These are the things that everybody said about Andy Reid if you rewind the clock and go back to 2005 or 2006. He can get you to those big games, but he can't get you over the hump to win it. And you know what got him over the hump? Oh, he got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That certainly helped. And, of course, he learned how to coach big game football a little bit better, too, as we've seen. And those are things that, Shanahan is going to have to continue to hear and deal with until he wins this Super Bowl and gets everybody off his back.
Yeah, and, hey, look, I go back to the 70s, right? In order to have a Don Shula, in order to have a Chuck Noll, in order to have a John Madden, you needed a Bud Grant. And it could be that Kyle Shanahan's fate is to be this generation's Bud Grant. It'll get him to the Hall of Fame. He'll win enough games to be regarded as one of the all-time greats, but he might end up without a single ring. As long as he keeps coming across Patrick Mahomes, if he keeps going back to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's hard enough to get to the Super Bowl, but then we get there, and God, we got to play Mahomes again.
The AFC in general, you're going to play somebody. Right, yeah. I mean, the AFC in general, it feels like
I'll take anybody except Mahomes.
Right.
I'll take my chances against anybody except Mahomes.
No, I'm with
maybe
you.
Lamar Jackson. We saw what happened on Christmas night. But Mahomes is the one that has become the kryptonite for Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. And also, now look, Reed eventually needed to change his scenery. He didn't do it voluntarily, but after 14 years, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, decided to move on. And with that move to Kansas City, after he got Patrick Mahomes, everything changed. At some point, if they keep banging their head against the ceiling that is a Super Bowl win, at some point, Kyle will need that fresh start too. He should want that fresh start at some point. Something I said during the break, and I'm not going to repeat it with the same degree of profanity that I used, but at a certain point, Kyle's got to ask himself, even though I have full control of this team, do I really have full control of this team? Are there forces in this organization that are keeping me from running this team the way that I really would want to? Do I have too much crap to worry about who's really in charge, about who's trying to talk me out of doing the things I want to do? Maybe I need to go somewhere where I'm really in charge, not just in charge on paper. Because I feel like there are forces in that organization that are keeping him from being everything he could be as a head coach.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I feel that way, right? I do, to your point, they have some strong personalities in that organization where, yeah, maybe their opinions are valued or have a, higher, standing than maybe, other places where the head coach has full control. I don't disagree with you there. I don't. But I don't think it's time to leave yet. I don't think that. They got something great going here. Like you said, people kind of act like, oh, you just get like Super Bowl. You're supposed to win it. No problem. Right? Okay, yeah. First off, it's not easy to win. Not easy to get there. And you're playing a guy that we've never seen anybody like this guy. Never. Like, I don't care what we say, whatever. I know Brady's still got all the hardware. Nobody is Patrick Mahomes. Nobody. I don't care. Brady, Manning, nobody. Right? I mean, the fourth quarter game-winning drives, all the stats say Mahomes is on another level than everybody else in the playoffs to this point. Like, he's borderline unstoppable. It's like Jordan's got the ball, 30 seconds left, you're going to lose. That's what we've seen from Mahomes so far, other than, a game where he had a broken toe and had to get surgery the next day. But the thing I get back to, the having to deal with Mahomes, right? You said it, the Mahomes factor earlier. I mean, that's real. The league is so, his ability to run, scramble, do all those things. And why I'm saying that too is, like, man, I think in this day and age, when you have a quarterback like Brock Purdy, all right, and you're playing a good AFC team that maybe is not even totally as good as you in totality of your team, which I think we would all sit there and watch the game, and everybody I watched next to, my son, other fans, I mean, I think we all sat there and went, the 49ers kind of look like the better team, right, throughout the football game, okay? But in this day and age where it's so close and maybe your team is a little bit better, I think it is fair to question, like, in those type of games, can guys like Brock Purdy really, overcome Mahomes? And the way the league is set up, it's a quarterback league. It's a passing league. So, yeah, one team is just a little bit better. But, damn, I've seen that in 3 Super Bowls now with the Chiefs, and they win the game because of the greatness of the quarterback. And that's where, I think Shanahan's going to continue to be dissected, and Brock Purdy's going to be dissected, just like Jimmy Garoppolo was to a degree, because we don't see that top-tier superstar talent, and we're not sure he can make some of those plays we're talking about to win the actual football game.
And really, the one Super Bowl that he lost was the one where his effort to try to do everything in his power to win the game was almost superhuman. With some of the stuff he was doing.
Yeah, it was
with
insane.
That toe.
Insane.
Needed to be surgically repaired.
Right.
Not long after the game ended. So Mahomes is going to rip out a lot of hearts. Mahomes is going to keep doing what Mahomes does. And it's funny because during the Super Bowl, you and I both picked the Chiefs because of Mahomes.
Right.
And there were moments where I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe this isn't a universal narrative. Maybe there will be days.
Maybe the team will win sometimes, right? Yeah. Right.
Nope.
I thought that
Mahomes
the first time when it was
Mahomes
20-10, 49ers, right? In the first Super Bowl, I was like, oh, man, I guess the team will beat the quarterback. But I think we're in an era right now where great quarterback can beat the team that's a little bit better than the team he's on. He can close that gap. and overcome that. And we're seeing a handful of guys that do that. One can. Right.
One does it consistently.
Yes.
In single elimination.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. At the end of the day, and this is where the analytics people need to sit down and shut up when you're running these numbers about whether to kick or receive, back to what we were talking about earlier. You can't quantify the reality that when it's time to flip that switch for the postseason, this guy gets even better. He gets more focused. He gets more determined. Whatever is within him, the product of all those reps and all those games and all those experiences and all those wins, he thrives. That's why I'm telling you, if you don't like it, you better find something else to do on Sundays between September and January, because this guy's only going to get better. Just sit back and enjoy it like we all did with Michael Jordan. Like people, did people despise the Bulls because they won so many games? Oh. No, they loved the fact that they were witnessing what Michael Jordan was doing, because I knew at the time, we're not going to see this again.
Right.
And spare me the whole LeBron versus Michael thing. No disrespect to LeBron, but anybody that says LeBron was better than Michael Jordan wasn't alive.
Exactly.
To see what Michael was
pretty much
doing when he was doing
I don't know anybody that alive that thinks that, but like anybody, yes, under the age of 24, they have that thought. And we're like, what are you talking about, right? Yeah. One more thing before we go, because I know we got 9 more segments in the next 47 minutes here. but the other thing that just pops up to me about the game, and just this really doesn't have a whole lot to do with kind of the subject we're on, but I do find it fascinating. I think we've had now like 5 10-point second half leads overcome, right, in Super Bowl history. 4 of them have all been from the same defensive scheme. 4 of them. I just like to point that out. Seattle in 2014. The Falcons with Dan Quinn from Seattle in 2016. And now the 2 49ers losses, it's all the same scheme. I do think there's something to be said about that. It is a little bit, again, of what we talk about. It's not we do what we do, but it is we do what we do within a certain confinement as compared to Spags, right? And some of these coaches that we're seeing, right, where Spags is like, we don't know what the hell he's going to do on this play. We don't know. He's going to come up with something that maybe we haven't seen or aren't ready for, or there's just so many variations of what he does, And I found that kind of fascinating too, Mike.
Do you remember the other 10-point deficit that was overcome, football historian?
Yes.
Super Bowl?
Well,
do you remember?
Well, I said, the last year, right? I mean, it was last year, too.
No. Back in 22, Super Bowl 22, Doug Williams in Washington.
Oh, you're right. It was 10-0 right at the start of the game.
22 points.
Right. I was thinking
points in the second quarter.
Second half, 10-point deficits, right?
Okay.
But yes, you were exactly right. That was 10 points, and you were going, oh my gosh, Elway and the Broncos are going to run away with this thing. And then Doug Williams started throwing bombs to Gary Clark and company, and that thing was over.
And Timmy Smith doing his thing, 203 rushing yards as a rookie. Unbelievable Super Bowl that was. Yeah. That was one that the Vikings could have been in if they lost to Washington. All right, we got now the saying break. Good. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Will Chris Jones be back in Kansas City? We'll talk about that next on PFT Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.